the humble harvest and eternal voices. October 1862, Jefferson County, West Virginia. After a great battle,
but just as she passed the window, best seen by the sharpshooters, a gust of wind blew her skirts and a curtain aside. Shots immediately announced that the light had been seen.
I asked how the child had been killed. The reply given was, in substance, the same as the old man's. With both hands she slowly and solemnly raised the blood-stained cover off the little breast, saying in sobs as she did so, "Just look here."
Deeds of valor are no longer dreams gone by. We live in nightly days. Our men are dauntless men. Will there ever be one to write the life of the common soldier?
The regiment had not lost a man, to be sure, but had seen a genuine fight, heard the scream of the shells, and seen a caisson blown up and men knocked over. "Well, you are from the old sod, ain't you?" My reply was simply, "Yes, sir." Last night it rained for an hour or so. It put the ground in fine order for seeding. I sent the wagon to Mr. Moore in 27 bushels by measure. The day was fine for seeding. No military to be seen on our side of the hill.
Wednesday, October 15th. Pa is becoming rather tired of our South Carolina soldier. Thinks he is sufficiently well to leave.
And I enjoyed the ride the more for being fortunate enough, firing from my horseback with my revolver, to kill a gray squirrel, which, as our mess arrangements had been thrown into utter disorder by the events, was gladly welcomed the same evening on our dinner table. October 14th, Tuesday. The weather cloudy, generally all day. That day in Charlestown, Mrs. Margaret Cameron, the relict of the late Samuel Cameron in her 66th year of age, died of consumption.
Wednesday, October 15th. Pa is becoming rather tired of our South Carolina soldier. Thinks he is sufficiently well to leave. By some means managed to put him to apple gathering today. I think he took the hint and will leave tomorrow.
October 15th, Wednesday. The weather cloudy. A skirmish at Charlestown, Virginia. First blood. First impressions. And a once freed man escapes his butternut captors. Mulholland remembered, on the evening of October 15th, orders were received to march at daybreak next morning on a reconnaissance down the Shenandoah Valley to Charlestown. What an evening of pleasurable excitement with a dash of anxiety it was. Men sat around the campfires later than usual and talked of the morrow, or rolled up in their blankets, dozed, and dreamed of the anticipated fight. For all knew that there would be a meeting of some kind, as a Confederate force was within a few miles. Candles flickered all over the camp, where others were writing letters home, thinking maybe that would be their last night on earth. Some packed their knapsacks and were all ready to march hours before the dawn. No doubt, many never slept at all, but sat by the smoldering embers of the campfire in quiet thought, gazing at the dark mountains or listening to the wash of the Shenandoah's waters. One can hardly imagine a moment so full of subdued excitement, anticipative hope, fear, sadness, pleasure, and all the emotions that human nature is subject to as the eve of a young soldier's first battle. And as the stars looked down on the calm, still night at Harpers Ferry, they shone on many a beating, though brave, young heart. And on the morning of that eventful day, when the new soldiers were to hear the whistle of the first hostile bullet, no reveille was necessary to call them to arms. Every man was ready long before the time to move. Private McCarter's infantry was ordered to march. He wrote, "On the night of the 15th, orders were received for the Irish Brigade to march next morning to Charlestown, a small town about 6 or 7 miles distant. We were to move on the Harpers Ferry pike. Our purpose, to drive a large force of the enemy, said to number 3,000, out of the town. These men had taken possession of the town only one day previous to our arrival on Bolivar Heights." October 16th, Thursday. Weather, rain late in the day. McCarter continues, "The road over which my route lay to Charlestown was then in a worse condition than it had ever been before. This had been caused by recent rainstorms so common in Virginia, together with being cut up into ruts and gullies by the passage of hundreds of batteries of artillery, rebel and Union, as well as large bodies of cavalry and infantry of both armies. Nothing but mud, knee-deep, was to be found anywhere in or around Harpers Ferry for many miles. And it was Virginia mud, red, sticky, thick, and staining hard to remove when dry. However, a cavalry horse was set apart for my use. But not being much of a horseman, and my route to the town being a constant jam from morning to night of moving bodies of troops arriving from other parts, I preferred Shank's mare to the animal appointed to carry me. That very day, Charles Henry Truman, a freed African-American from Fayette County, Pennsylvania, but forced into slavery after being captured in May at Strasburg, Virginia, as Federal General Banks' army was hastily retreating the valley, he was with the opposing Confederate cavalry at their nearby camp, encamped southwest from Charlestown, but for weeks Truman pretended to be an illiterate and was therefore given many written sensitive messages to deliver to different commands. Of course, he studied the messages, adding that to what he saw and overheard. So, when his moment soon came to escape over to the Federal lines fighting at Charlestown, he had much to share. A New York Times reporter met Truman there, listened to him, and concluded in his newspaper's October 22nd edition, Truman betrays such unusual intelligence, and his statements correspond nearly with what I have previously learned. Following July, Truman enlisted into Company H of the 6th U.S. Infantry Colored Troops. As the regiment advanced towards Charlestown that autumn day, Mulholland wrote, "Summer lingered late that year. Stacks of hay, not yet gathered into the barns, were still in the fields. The meadows were yellow with goldenrod, and the regiment's line was formed in a field still green with rich clover. Ah, how beautiful that bright October morning, when for the first time the command formed line to meet the enemy. Every face in the ranks beaming with patriotism, courage, enthusiasm, and hope in that long line of young men, the best of the land. Men who had risked their precious lives in defense of their country. The calm bravery with which they swept over the flowered fields on that autumn morning was indicative of what was to be expected on many other and bloodier fields." The overall Federal commander, Winfield Hancock, reported later, "On the 16th instant, in obedience to instructions, I marched towards Charlestown, Virginia, with my division and 1,500 men of other divisions under command of Colonel W.R. Lee of the 20th Massachusetts Volunteers, and a force of cavalry with a battery of 4 guns, horse artillery, Colonel Devon being in command thereof.